Well, this is a weird situation because we're going into this transfer window not knowing for sure whether we're in Europe next season or not. I think we are. Hello and welcome to part 139 of It's Coming Home. I'm Kevin. Coming up on today's episode, we have our summer transfer window season review shenanigans. If you remember at the end of last episode, we did finish a record high of 7th place in the Premier League, but we don't know if it's enough to get us in to the Europa League because somehow this season the FA Cup semi-final still hasn't been played when the Premier League season is over. So we're waiting on what happens in the FA Cup to confirm that there is a final spot for... it even says there, we enter race for qualification. It was the last game of the season. Do I not understand how the Premier League works anymore? There have been a couple of other bits and pieces that have happened since then. Saidi is the third best goalkeeper in the Premier League, which is awesome. We did have a player in Team of the Year as well, which I think Riviere has been in there the last 2 years in a row. We've got a good right back. Awards, Premier League Team of the Year. Oh no, he didn't make it into the Premier League Team of the Year last year, but he was our Player of the Year. So Riviere in the Premier League Team of the Year. And I did try and sign a striker with last season's transfer budget before new budgets came through. I didn't manage to get him through in time, but looking at the scout reports, we've been trying to get a striker for ages. I've been chasing Rego and Mark. Still can't get either of them to discuss terms with me, but a third option has presented himself, Akemo, a 23-year-old Spanish striker who is actually a former strike partner of Kano at Las Palmas. They played that season together, I think. They played together that season. So this guy was basically Kano's backup player when they were at Las Palmas together, but he got 15 goals from 34 starts in La Liga last year. Not necessarily the prolific striker we were looking for, but he has a £15 million release clause and potential to get much better than he already is. So we've put an offer in for him. I don't know if I'm going to follow that through now because that was more a case of trying to spend the end of last season's budget so it didn't get rolled into this season's. And unfortunately, weren't able to stop that from happening. So we have had our budget set, and there's confirmation that those two just refused to discuss terms with me. There's your confirmation that we have got our budget set, and the £18 million that we had has been rolled in to the new budget. £45 million is the lowest budget we've had for a couple of years, even though we had money left over. Doesn't give us a huge amount to play with. It's probably one or two new players. £1.6 million in wage budget does give us... realistically, we can bring in two players. If we have a look at the squad depth, those two players really need to be... I'd still like to bring in another striker, Presedo news. He's announced his retirement. So as much as lots of people said I was a silly goose for giving him a 3-year contract, he's not really played in the second half of the season at all, despite having a strong start, and has announced he's retiring at the end of this season. So he's going to be gone. So we need another striker, really. Emilio didn't work out. Adrio was a one-season wonder. So we've got Kano, Dragovic. We need one more. It might be a Kamo, maybe. Manu and Chernyshov are fine there. In midfield, Bishop, Kurti, Carr are all good. We need a replacement for Gonzalez. And really, I want to bring in like a proper 4-star central midfield player. I'd like to spend the bulk of my budget here, but might not be able to if we can't get Herrero back. We need Herrero back in as our defensive midfielder again. Defence, I'm completely happy with. I don't think we need to really fiddle too much there. And same in goal, I'm absolutely happy. So this summer, really, a striker, a midfielder, and ideally Herrero back on loan, or if not, another defensive midfielder. It's not going to be the busiest summer we've ever had. But before any of that transfer stuff, we need to get into our end of season awards and review. Mushing those two words together. Who knew reward was an amalgamation of review and award? Figuring out the English language here. Has the Dragovic goal I showed you in the last episode actually got one goal of the season? That would be remarkable. So, Player of the Year, huge landslide for Riviere with 70% of the vote. Sands in second place, Saidi third. Goal of the Year, I think this is the one that we showed you. We did pick it out as it was just an awesome goal. One of the best goals I've seen in Football Manager. So it is worth watching again. Here it is, Dragovic picking it up on the left-hand side. He beats one man. He beats another man. He beats the third man and scores. That's Thierry Henry-esque. That was stunning. If he keeps doing that next year, we don't need another striker. Saidi gets signing of the season, £53 million. Very well spent, if you ask me. It's our forever goalkeeper, 18 clean sheets. The first goalkeeper probably in the entire series. Home historians will have to double check that for me. But I think this is the first time we've had a keeper who's who's not conceded more goals in games he's played. Even when we were running away with league titles, we were conceding lots of goals. I'm probably wrong. Cesar Sands, Young Player of the Year. It's the last time he can win that, age 23. And he's someone we probably need to keep an eye on this summer because there are some big clubs after Cesar Sands. And his release clause is only about £50 million. So we might be losing him, in which case we'll need to bring in another defender. Team of the year is Saidi in goal, a back four of Pagano, Lee, Sands and Riviere. Herrero at the base of the midfield. By the way, big Herrero news. I didn't even notice. He's out of contract at Real Madrid this summer. We might be able to bring him in on a free transfer. We've made an offer. If we can bring him in on a free transfer, that would be superb. That's one of the transfer targets done straight away. Gonzalez and Bishop ahead of him. And then Chernyshov gets the nod over Manu behind Adrio and Kano. Stats of the season. Top goal scorer was Presedo with 14. That says it all, really. Riviere, highest average rating and most assists. Herrero, best pass completion. Riviere also got most man of the match. And then there's the Naughty Boys Club. Season review, we overperformed once again. We were expected to finish mid-table. We finished 7th. Couple of decent cup runs. Europa League, I don't remember happening. I don't know why that's on there. And average attendance of next to nothing. The team of 2022, where are they now? It doesn't actually show us the team. So we've looked at these names. What's Lerick Fernandez up to? Let's have a look. He's playing for Western Sydney now, which is in Australia. So he left us to go to Hull on loan and then was released on a free transfer. And he's gone to play in Australia. So Lerick Fernandez, earning decent money, has moved to Australia, apparently. Thanks for letting me know, Lerick. Fair enough. Proctor, so Mick Powell, we know what he's been up to. His season didn't really turn out the way he hoped going to play in Scotland. He'll be back this summer and we'll try and send him out on loan again. Shane Phillips is playing for Altrincham now, having had time at QPR, Sunderland, at Altrincham. I'm checking all of these to see if any of them are looking like they might become staff, because obviously I want to bring in all of the home originals as staff if we get the opportunity to. While we're looking at former home players, we should probably complete the selection by checking in on Dean Morris again, who I do worry that I've mentioned before. I don't think we're going to bring him in. He's not as good as Herrero and costs a lot more. We'll scout him again just to keep an eye on him. And then, of course, we need to check in on Sir Anthony Harris as well. That's not him. Sir Anthony Harris, still at Orlando City. Bless him, that's not too good. Is he becoming a member of staff yet? He's not. He's now had, he's not exactly tearing the MLS apart, but he's having a lovely time, I imagine. Earning lots of splendid money, going to be there for another year or so, and then it would be nice to be able to bring at least one of them home as a member of staff, but none of them look like they're ready to hang up their boots just yet. This is the dynamics. So Bishop, Adrio and Presedo as our team leaders. We're obviously going to have Presedo move on again this summer to open up another team leader spot, which, there's some decent candidates to move into that spot. And end of season team meeting, plans for next year. Do we dare tell him we want to finish in the Europa League? No, we don't want mid-table. We want top half. There you go. They're happy with top half. I don't want to push them too hard, but at the same time, we've got to be thinking in terms of qualifying for Europe every year from now on. That's got to be the goal. Right, we're having our youth and training facilities upgraded, which is splendid. Annual youth audit, splendid. We've got money in the bank. The projection is looking good, although it's slowly going down. All is good financially. Now we just need to bring in some players. Let's just check in with the Patreon crew. This year's youth intake was awful, so there's no new Patreon people, unless I missed a message. I don't think I did. So there's no new Patreon people this year, which I think is the first year of the entire save. We've not given a player to a Patreon person, but I think we only signed 4 of the youth intake. If we try and pick out the really young ones, Simon Evans at 15. Is there any more 15-year-olds? No. We signed him, plus I guess a couple of these 16-year-olds probably came in this summer as well. It was an awful youth intake. But we'll have a look at the rest of the Patreon youngsters to see who's pushing for first team time. I didn't realise Bogdan was still here. Goodness me. So, Patreon people. Stephen Penny, I think, is a Patreon person. He's had kind of... I think he's probably going to leave this summer because he's never going to be good enough for us now. He would have been superb when he came through, though. If he'd have come through our youth system 5 years earlier, he'd have played 400 games for us, because his career trajectory has basically followed ours, but about 3 or 4 years behind. So he's got National League South, National League, League 2, League 1, Championship, playing all the time, all the way up through those leagues. But unfortunately, he's only ever going to be a Championship midfielder. He's out of contract next summer, so in actual fact he might even get a Premier League loan just to complete his set, but he's never going to break into our team. And I think he's probably the closest of the current batch on current ability. If we look at potential, there are a couple of others who might get there. Lad Baker is probably the one who really stands out. Central midfielder with 4-star potential. Probably need to get him out on loan at some point. And then Walter Ardin we've been looking at for a little while as well, as an option at left back, capped at England under 20 level, will become a Premier League left back in future, but he's going to be competing with Chris Deakin, who we brought in, who is a year older. So actually I guess Baker does have the edge. Is Tom Connolly a Patreon person? No, he's just someone who seems quite good, who probably someone on Patreon should have nabbed but didn't. So that's all the Patreon people. If you can see yourself on there, you know roughly where you are in the pecking order. If you can't see yourself on there, keep an eye on Patreon when the new youth intake comes out over the course of the next week or so, and see if you can nab yourself a little gem. I almost moved on without doing the annual checkup on what Nathan Curry's up to. Now aged 30. He is still at Dorking Wanderers, playing in the Evo Stick Premier League South. The man that will never retire, hasn't had a contract for years. He's not earning a penny. He's just carrying on. I mean, he's got to be one of Dorking Wanderers' finest ever players. Is he on their recommended personnel thing? No. I want him to become a Dorking Wanderers legend. That would make me very happy, but he's not even on the favoured personnel. Nathan Curry, still not ready for a re-roll. Well, I thought the Herrero situation was too good to be true. He signed a new contract with Real Madrid. Hopefully we can get him back on loan again. But a 4-year contract with them. I hoped we'd be able to get him. No, they're looking to give him a chance in the first team. That was just going to be too easy bringing him in, wasn't it? The search for a defensive midfielder continues. Hey, we're back in the Europa League. The big issue is, I think 7th place means the early qualifying rounds again. But we have made it into the Europa League. I guess that means the FA Cup has happened. So let's have a look to see who won the FA Cup. Because, of course, we need to know who's been winning the FA Cup. The Emirates FA Cup. It's just confirmed that it's a Liverpool-Chelsea final, which I guess is enough to push us into the Europa League, which is splendid. So we're in the Europa League, but we can't get Herrero. We have finalised the signing of Akamo, the striker that we were talking about before. It seems like a bit of a no-brainer. He's about as cheap as they're going to be. We can't seem to be able to sign any of these South American wonder kids. So let's get somebody who's hopefully going to come in and weigh in with a few goals. The way Kano has. Dragovic is starting to show some real signs of promise. Emilio can be the 4th option with Presedo retiring. We've already got Candemil coming in at left back as well, but he won't be able to play for us this year. But we do still need a central midfielder and a defensive midfielder, and I can't help but think that the entire game is aligning itself to force me to bring this man in. That's how much money we've got left in the transfer budget. He can play central midfield. He can play defensive midfield. It's a huge amount of money to spend for what's effectively going to be a season or two. But the romance of it might just be too much for me. To see Dean Morris in a home shirt. I'm asking for a new scout report. I'm hoping this estimated cost is going to come down. If we can get him for less than 20 million and for less than 100 grand a week, we will bring Dean Morris home. Well, despite setting my own limit of £20 million, I had an offer accepted at 32.5. Couldn't agree terms with him though. He just wanted too much money. So Dean Morris this summer is not coming home. Right, this transfer window is starting to take shape. I can't remember if we'd confirmed the signing of Akamo before, but we have now finalised the signing of Akamo. He's as good as Kano, better than Dragovic. Presado's about to retire, but we now have the striker that we were looking for. We've also just brought in the midfielder that we were looking for. He can play as a holding midfielder. He can play in central midfield. 22-year-old Spanish central midfielder. 3.5-star current ability. 4-star potential ability. Juan Antonio Jimenez. Or Jimenez, I guess it is. I'm not going to call him Jimenez. I can't do that with my mouth. But he comes in as our best central midfielder. He's not quite as good at defensive midfield as Herrero. So I think he's probably going to play central midfield for us with the option to drop back as cover for whoever we bring in at defensive midfield. But he is in. We're also probably going to be letting our captain Bishop leave. There was an offer that came in from West Ham. He got in a grumpy about it. And I don't want anyone who's got a grumpy on, especially players who are 30, turning 31 this summer, and we've got an offer for £10 million more than we paid for him. So we've actually accepted an offer for £24.5 million from Millwall for Bishop. I imagine West Ham are going to come in for him again. And as a response to that, we're trying to sign another central mid. You can see I've tried to sign Gonzalez and Herrero permanently. Can't get either of them. We're trying to bring this guy in, Filippo Calcagno, who is an Italian under-21 international, or former under-21 international, currently at Napoli, can play as a central midfielder, can also play as a defensive midfielder, but mainly this is your Bishop replacement. He would come in as good as Curti, as good as Jimenez, and he would be another solid signing. If we let Bishop go and bring the new guy in, we're going to be just about spent up, I think, which is a bit of a problem because we don't have the defensive midfielder we were looking for in yet. But we don't want him. This is somebody that my director of football is trying to bring in. We don't need another centre back. He's not good enough as a defensive midfielder. So we are keeping an eye on defensive midfield options. Dean Morris is always at the back of my mind, but he doesn't seem the right man at the right time. Joseph Dixon, he's another one who can play there, but he's primarily a central midfielder. I guess there's the advantage that he's English. He wouldn't get into our team in central midfield. Not good enough. Alves is always still there as well, who we tried to sign several times before. We just can't prize him away from all the money that's in China. So, defensive midfield, the search continues. The timing of this couldn't be worse. I'm all for a big money takeover of the club, investment, etc., etc. Could do without the transfer embargo hitting on the 13th of June, though. This nonsense needs to get out of the way quickly, because that cancels all of those plans I just talked about. We can't let Bishop leave if we can't bring in a replacement for him. So we're going to have an unhappy old man, 31-year-old captain on our hands when we've got the perfect opportunity to sell him. But I just can't risk letting him go. In fact, there you go. That transfer immediately cancelled. So as a result, we're also going to have to cancel this one. Oh, that's auto-cancelled as well. That's interesting. So auto-cancels all moves in and out of the club. Well, this could be the the most boring transfer window ever if we spend the entire summer on a transfer embargo. This is ridiculous. Well, not only did it come at the worst time, it didn't even lead to anything. The consortium have pulled the plug, but thankfully the transfer embargo is now lifted. We've just had Chelsea make an offer for Sands, and we've had to offer him an increased contract to get him to stay. But now the transfer embargo is lifted, we can get back on with all of our business again. So Sands Hopefully, once he signs his new contract, we'll be happy. Bishop probably still wanting to leave, though. So back on to the original plan of moving Bishop on because he wants to leave. We're going to have to bring in a central midfielder. So the one advantage of what's just happened that could present itself is that we might have had a better option appear ridiculously. The best one is Sergio Gonzalez, who we had last year. Any chance? Not an inquiry. No, withdraw that. I want to just see if we can extend his loan for another year. Withdraw, transfer offer. Transfer. I just want to try and take him on loan, which apparently I can't do because I can't do the buttons properly. Rubbish. But he's the only one who's any good who's actually available, which is frustrating. This guy will go down forever as one that got away. We had him agreed to join us on loan in January, but we couldn't get the paperwork through on time. He then went on to pretty much play every game for Arsenal in the second half of the season, and now he's a regular there and doesn't want to come in, but he would have been the perfect replacement for Herrero. We can go back in for Herrero one more time, see if we can extend that loan. Nope, Real Madrid want to be playing him. The search for a midfielder continues. We have our future right back, and it's very frustrating that he can't get a work permit and we can't play him straight away because he is so much better than Pagano as a left back. Now, someone did mention a potential way to get him a work permit would be to make sure that he's in the top 25% of our earners. Now, I don't know how to do that other than let's try it. Can we offer him a new contract now? No. Has he played an international? Oh, he actually has played 4 appearances for Colombia. Right. He hadn't made his debut when we initially applied for a work permit. So let's apply for a new work permit. If we can get him a work permit through, that will be massive news. To bring him in for £1 million could be signing of the save, because that is crazy low money for a player as good as he is. I'm excited. I'm excited at what's going on there. I'm excited at the prospect of having brought him in and maybe getting him a work permit. Kyle Messerol, if you're watching, you've just signed for Sheffield United after how many seasons? 2 seasons on loan at Fylde, where you've been a bit of a superstar in the National League North. You now need to make the jump to the Championship. But Candemil, that would be awesome if we can get him a work permit. Immediately! Literally applied for the work permit 9 a.m, 11 a.m. They've gone, yeah, obviously. So Candemil is in. We have our new left back. He felt like a massive risk in January, but we've just brought in a proper top level left back for £1 million. Oh, the summer's coming together. Let's have a look at this squad depth thing. It is the 1st of July. It's the perfect time to have a look. So, strikers, we're sorted. Kano, Dragovic, Akemo, all roughly equivalent ability. And then Adrio is a backup to the 3 of them. We've also got Emilio still knocking around as well. Presedo is retiring imminently. I thought he would have already gone now. 17th of July, he's retiring. I think I might actually offer Emilio out because with Kano, Dragovic, Akemo, Adrio, I don't think we need Emilio anymore. So let's free up some money, offer Emilio out, and it frees a squad spot for Botello then as well. Because Botello's still knocking around, still with potential. So we don't want to have Emilio blocking his potential route through to the first team. So for strikers, sorted. Attacking midfield, Manu and Chernyshov battling it out for a first team spot. Taylor as a backup, absolutely sorted. Midfield, Jimenez, Bishop, who wants to leave, Curti, Carr. That as a 4 would be great. If we keep those 4 together, brilliant. If Bishop forces for a move, we're going to need to bring somebody else in. But Jimenez does seem like he is a bit of a player to be brought in for age 22 for a really low price from Hibernian. I'm very happy with bringing him in. I talked about wanting to bring in a midfielder better than everyone we currently had, and that's exactly what we've done. We probably need to offer Bogdan out. The fact that he's still here is just silly. Let's get rid of him. Is there anyone else knocking around on that list who needs to be moved on? No. Defensive midfield is the area we really need to strengthen. Jimenez is going to have to play there at the moment. We don't want to have to play Van der Horst or Bishop. We need basically 2 defensive midfielders. Left back, we're well sorted now. The new boy, Sands and Pagano can all play there. Riviere at right back. We don't really have a backup right back. Centre back, Van der Horst, Lee, Sands, Turner as a fourth choice is fine. And then in goal, Saidi, who's now made his debut for France. Age 21, he's now the French goalkeeper. Worth every penny of £53 million. And then having Herrera as his backup as well with a huge amount of potential. I'm happy there. So all we need now, watch me go and do something completely different. We need a backup right back, potentially, ideally with lots of potential, who's going to be better than Riviere within a year. That's what we want at right back. And then we need at least one real top quality defensive midfielder. Somebody rang up Dean Morris. I mean, it's the perfect opportunity to bring him back, but he just won't come. And maybe a young option as well. So it's defensive midfielder we really, really need. So let's have a look at what we've got on the scout reports for defensive midfielders. Still would love to bring him in. It's not possible to purchase the player at the moment. It's never possible to purchase him because he just won't come. All these South Americans frustrate me no end. Herrera, apparently, we could pick up for £54 million. I mean, we know he fits into the... It's an option. We know he fits into the way we play. He is the best one there. Dean Morris. They don't want to sell him now all of a sudden. Should we just throw loads of money at Herrera? Because, I mean, I'm really annoyed we couldn't get him on a free transfer. Real Madrid have upset me there. And they've got two good other options as well. I might just splurge. We're going to have to do some of it on the Never Never. We might not even be able to do it until we've sold some players. I think we probably need to move Emilio and Bogdan on first. Then see how much money we've got. I mean, that's not very much. How much is he actually worth? 4. To be honest, he was an absolute flop. Why did I panic sign him? Let's just, yeah, you can go to Las Palmas. That's fine. We don't want any of this lot. We're not in the market for youngsters anymore. We need a defensive midfielder. And I think at the moment, it's most likely to be Herrera again. Is it a 54 million release clause? It's not. So, if they're saying 54 million, usually what that means is if we go on the Never Never and do 54 million, that'll be loosely where we need to end up being. Right, we can't really afford that up front now. So if we try and take that down to 20... push this up to 34. So we're keeping it at 54 million. Right, we might be able to bring Herrera in. It would be a record transfer by £1 million. But rubbish. We don't want him. Back to the drawing board for defensive midfielders then. We have our defensive midfielder, boys and girls. We're going to pretend we don't see that bit. He wanted £150,000 a week. Persuaded him to come based on a 50% yearly wage rise on a 5-year contract. I'm hoping, because we've done stuff like this before, I'm hoping that within the next 6 months or so we can offer him a new contract without that in. It's a bit of a gamble, but I think he's a player who'll end up being worth it. Liam Thompson, current Scotland international, 23 years old, 19 caps for Scotland already. He's a proper defensive midfielder who can play in midfield rather than the other way around. 4-star current ability. He's a very good defensive midfield player, and he'll just slot into that gap in the squad. And that's the squad just about finished. Carr's a little bit worried that we've signed him to replace him, which, to be fair, there's probably an argument to say we probably have. I mean, this guy barely played for me. I'm happy with the balance of the squad. Everyone will get a chance to impress. There you go. That might have cheered him up. There's a few players who are unhappy. Pagano wants to leave. I'm happy for Pagano to leave. We've got the new left-back, Candemill. Pagano can go if he wants to go. Carr, I'll probably let him go if he wants to go as well, although probably not him and Bishop. We are pretty much spent up now. I'm not worrying about that yet because it occasionally does flash red and then resolves itself when we sell a few players. We have sold Emilio. He's gone to Huesca for £4.3 million. And we've also got, hopefully, Pagano kind of needs to leave at this point. Let's bring some money in from selling these clauses. I know it doesn't bring a lot in, but we kind of need the cash now. So let's bring as much in as we can. Bit in from those two. But this is what the squad depth looks like. And if this is a squad we went into next season with, I'd be delighted. So they're the strikers. All good up there. Attacking midfielders sorted. Central midfield has had a huge upgrade. Defensive midfield looking stronger than last year as well. And the defence has been upgraded by bringing in Candemill. It would have been nice to bring in a right back, but we haven't really got the money to do that now. And we do need to keep an eye on this. So I think I'm pretty much set, unless somebody ends up leaving. So we'll see if someone ends up leaving. Right, there's been a little bit more business going on, mainly just sort of fiddling. A lot of it instigated by the director of football and players wanting to leave. The first and most important piece of business, though, is this season, Sir Mick Powell will be plying his trade in League Two for Bristol Rovers, and hopefully it goes a little bit better than the Scottish Championship did. Good luck, Sir Mick. But there's been other transfers going on as well. Where are we? The ones coming in, these two loans. Liam Dobson is a central midfielder who's coming on loan for the season from Arsenal. Can play central midfield or defensive midfield. 3-star current ability, 4-star potential ability. I've got no plans necessarily to use him other than the fact that Ronaldo Carr is unhappy at the club. So it's an opportunity to sell him. So he might be leaving. Dobson can then take that squad spot. Somehow Bogdan is still here as well. I keep forgetting he exists, which, I mean, he probably realises that, but he's in on loan for the season. And also, Yanis Cheraldini is another one that my director of football has brought in. A French wonder kid striker, 3-star current ability, 5-star potential ability. Another one who's not necessarily in my plans. Kano, Akemo, Dragovic, I would put them all ahead of him, but it does mean if anyone wants to come in for Adrio, they can. No one has yet. I'm not going to force him out, but Batella falls down to sixth choice again, and the future's starting to look a little bit murky for Batella. Let's sort out our squad for the season and just make sure we can fit everybody in. So I do have a bit of confusion because we haven't had to play a Europa League game yet. So I don't know if qualification is somehow different this year. It seems weird that you go straight into the groups via finishing 7th when the only time 7th place gets the slot is if the League Cup winners are already qualified. But as League Cup winners, we had to qualify. It's weird. But does this get everybody in? Is there any big players who are missing out? Peter Turner's not in the squad as it stands. I think he probably needs to be in ahead of Kyle Taylor because he's our 4th choice centre-back. Or Adrio maybe could drop out. I think we're going to have to move either Taylor or Adrio on. Montebelle's still knocking around in there. If Adrio's missing out on the squad, Taylor's the obvious one. Taylor needs loaning out. So take Taylor out, get Turner in, and that can then be our squad. So these two, Bogdan needs to go on the transfer list. He should already be on it. How is he not on the transfer list? We need rid of Bogdan, and Taylor needs to go out on loan somewhere for the season, like he did for the second half of last season. I don't know how he actually got on at Motherwell. But all right, similar sort of form to what he had when he was there before, but he needs another loan somewhere. And then the squad is pretty much done, which I know I've already said once. So expect another 5 transfers. Well, it wasn't Carr who's forced for a move, not yet. Anyway, Pagano has, though. He had a grumpy on from the moment we signed Candemill. I've got to learn his name. He was our 3rd choice left back. We've got Deacon as well, who's there as an option. So we didn't really need him. An offer of £19 million for a player that we signed for £13 million last year. We made a nice little profit on him. And there's money back in the bank again. £19 million to spend. And there may be a Brazilian wonder kid on the horizon. I don't know if I'm going to get him. That's what I'm going to show you him because I never get these Brazilian wonder kids. But this one's only 18 rather than 23, like all the ones we've been looking at. He wouldn't come straight into the team, but he has got a huge amount of potential. And just an 18-year-old Brazilian wonder kid, I'd be mad not to, really. I don't need anything else, so I'll take him if I can. Fingers crossed. Is that our record sale? Amir Pagano. Goodness me. We've made some money on left-backs over the years. Carr has now gone out on loan. He was my 5th choice central midfielder. My theory is, Newcastle offered to take him on loan. They're paying 70% of his wages. He barely played for us last year. Maybe a bit of a waste of money panic buy when we lost Samuel. But my thinking is, looking at dynamics, Carl Bishop still wants to leave. If he does end up forcing through a move, we can just recall Carr. If not, then we've got 4 midfielders. We don't need him for the year. But it seemed, rather than letting him go and then panicking and having to overpay again to bring in a replacement, that seems like a pretty good solution to me. We must be close to the start of the season now. We still haven't... Oh, we are just straight into the Europa League group. I don't understand. Not going to argue, though. Well, after signing our last Colombian fullback without a work permit happened so well, we've done another one on the other side. Pablo Bernal, 19-year-old Colombian under-20 international, 2.5-star current ability, 5-star potential ability. Well, obviously, we need to loan him out straight away because he's not got a work permit. But we'll get him out on loan somewhere. Fingers crossed while he's out on loan, he'll make his international debut, play a few games. Then when he comes back, he can start competing with Riviere for that right-back spot because he's already almost as good as Riviere is. In other transfer news, we've let Kyle Taylor go out on loan to Norwich. So he's going to actually go out and get some Premier League football this year, which is it's a make-or-break season for Kyle Taylor. 22 now, needs to show that he's any good. He's probably never going to be good enough for us. And we've also let Bogdan go to Lecce for £4.2 million. So another player we've turned a profit on randomly. The actual transfers for the summer, 68 million out, 28 million in. Not too shabby at all. And we still have the outside chance of bringing in Bruno Eduardo Mira, although his work permit has also been declined. To be honest, at aged 18, with the potential that he's got and the fact he's not coming straight into the first team squad, I'll probably take him without a work permit as well and just send him out on loan on the same principle. It's going to be a little bit trickier to get him to make a Brazilian debut without getting into our team first. Here you go, lots of teams trying to take Bernal. Where's the best place to send him? Spain would be the best place because he only needs to be there 2 years, doesn't he? So, on that basis, we don't want to send him to New York. We don't want to send him to Kansas. Huesca would work well, so you can go there for sure. Bundesliga, I think you need 5 years, so you're not going there. Girona is a good move. You can go there. Again, Bundesliga, no. MLS, no. Because the other option, let's go get him a Spanish passport. If we can send him out to Spain 2 years in a row. You can tell I've managed in Spain and know you only need 2 years there if you're South American. The rest of these countries, I don't know the situation. So let's get him out to Spain, hopefully for 2 years, because that way he gets a work permit either way. But hopefully he'll make his debut and won't actually need the Spanish nationality thing to get around it all. That's the thinking. What was I saying about Mira? Yeah, he's one where he's probably not going to get a work permit through playing for Brazil. We need to figure out a way to do it some other way. Perhaps he's not as good an idea. Right, Ardin's going out on loan to Shrewsbury. Armenia, no, why is all these German teams want him? We want him to go to Spain. Well, we signed Mira. He didn't get a work permit. He has got lots of potential. My plan is scuppered because no one wants to take him on loan, which is a bit of a problem. We're just going to keep offering him on loan and hope he can go somewhere. Again, perfect thing for him. 2 years in Spain. He comes back to us with a Spanish passport in 2 years, ready to go straight into our first team. We finally have our Brazilian wonder kid. But no one else wants him. I don't understand. It's transfer deadline day. A few of our youngsters have gone out on loan, and we've signed an old man reserve right back. Just panic buy. We needed a right back. He's 31 years old. Jan van der Laan. He's just going to be in for the 1 year, 2 year contract. 3-star current ability, 3-star potential. He's an attacking midfielder who's also natural at right back, where he can play as a wing back. He can also play in central midfield. He's not going to get in the team as an attacking midfielder, probably. He's not going to get past Riviere as a right back, probably. But he's a decent squad option to have knocking around the place, just as an extra player, really. And we still haven't got anyone to take Mira on loan, and I'm starting to panic about it, because what on earth do I do with a Brazilian wonder kid that we can't give it? Oh, hold on. Someone has... Has that just happened? I've not noticed that happen, and I don't know... Where is it? Mira. Oh, perhaps he is going out on loan then. To where? Where is he going? Volendam. Where on earth are Volendam? Holland. How long do you need for a work permit in Holland? Hopefully just 2 years. I don't mind where he has his 2 years, as long as he comes back with a non-Brazilian passport. Right, transfer window's passed. Last player to leave was our 6th choice centre-back, Erwin Lagac, who is now 20, and I forgot he existed, and he's probably done, because he couldn't even get a game for Kilmarnock last season. I am still hoping Mira's going to go on loan. I guess their transfer window is different to ours, so fingers crossed he still will. This is what our team report looks like, though, as of right now. Obviously, nice strength in depth up front, attacking midfield, central midfield, defence, left back, centre back, even right back now, and in goal. I think this is the best squad we've ever had at home, and we kind of need that because we've got the Europa League to worry about. We are overdrawn, but hopefully that will sort itself out as a CLE. Okay, we won't worry about that too much. We'll just go and win the Europa League, Champions League football next year, and we're sorted. Right, that pushes us through to tomorrow's video, which is, what's all this? Registration of players. Tomorrow's video is going to be the first 2 games of the league season. It might even include the Europa League draw, but at the very least it'll be Wolves and Fulham, and then we get finally play a Europa League group game the day after. If you've enjoyed that, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos, and thank you very much for watching.